Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grow Food SA. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the other side of what is important about mulch and things like that, is mainly the mycorrhiza and the fungi that come in with that. It creates a symbiotic relationship with a lot of plants, and it ends up playing a really important role in the gardening process. So stay tuned and we'll be talking more about that. So it's always a good idea to be adding organic matter and mulch and wood chips to your garden bed. This is part of the balance that kind of happens. Normally in woods you would have a succession of leaves or debris kind of falling down and building up a layer of organic matter on the forest floor. So we need to always be making sure that we are adding mulch to our piles, organic matter, anything that we can do into our garden beds, so we can continue this cycle of nutrient building and soil building, and continue that forward so that we can have longevity in the garden. One of the most important things that comes out of whenever we're using mulch, though, out of some of the other products that are kind of like in the garden, like leaves and some things like that might biodegrade a little bit quicker, is mulch really relies on fungi to help break it down. So this is a good way to introduce fungi into the garden. Fungi plays an important role as in for two main kind of, well, actually there's tons of several things that kind of go on with fungi. Some of the main ones are the way that it can actually help with erosion. So if you have a slope, you want to make sure you cover it with mulch. And what ends up happening is the mulch will form these fungi kind of pads, and they can actually help hold material together. So see how this is generally kind of staying together here. So that's one really important role that kind of mulch and the fungi within the mulch plays, to help prevent erosion. Alright, so what you can see here is a lot of the fungi moving through the mulch. So this fungi is this white kind of webby looking substance that is moving through this mulch. That's one of the things that can start breaking down and decomposing some of the harder fibrous material that makes up mulch, wood mulch. And these little hairs, you can see some of them right there. So these little hairs right there will attach onto root systems of plants, and sometimes they can play in various different roles with this connection that's formed, the mycorrhizal connection. They can communicate information, like if there's pests in the area, they can often warn other plants through that fungal network about potential hazards, like if they have any protection against that pest, then they can actually start excreting kind of maybe some kind of coating over their leaf that can protect them from aphids or something that's kind of coming through. A lot of them can exchange food and nutrients through these, so that plays an important role whenever a plant root is developing and it can't quite get over to nutrient areas that are located in the soil here. So we can almost take the example of this kind of plant that's growing in the mulch here, this trumpet vine, and if there was nutrients over here in this area but the root system didn't get over here, but this network of fungi formed between it, it can actually move some of the nutrients on over to this. In exchange, the plant will provide sugars to the fungi, and that's how they kind of work in a network together. So you can also take areas that have been inoculated already with the fungi. So you can see this little patch right in here. As I start to dig back, all this white in here is all that mycorrhiza fungi. So you can take some of this, and just by whenever you spread it out in your garden, that actually spreads the fungi around. You know, make sure it gets covered again by some other mulch, and that's one easy way to start spreading the fungi network throughout your garden area. So mulch will bring in a lot of decomposers There's the first stage decomposers that were the fungi that we were kind of talking about, and then there's also second stage decomposers that'll come in with mulch. So this is a large ox beetle larva. So these little guys, as you can tell by their big jumpers there, they're some of the ones that can also break down mulch too. So we see them a lot underneath compost piles. It's basically a sign of good soil health. So you know, some bugs are good and some bugs you want to kind of keep in the garden. These might eat some of the roots, so I'll often put them off to the side of the garden. So the last thing, but most important thing about using mulch in the garden, as we've talked about before, is really it protects the soil. The soil can be exposed to sun and dry out, and you lose moisture that way. But also, as we talked about with the fungi and other decomposers, microbial activity, things like that will be in that first 1 to 2 to 3 inches of the soil or so, and they exist only there in a climate where it's moist and there's no sunlight. And so by covering the mulch, that really helps moisture stay in and create that biological living soil that we're really wanting to go after. So we can just tell in this area right here, just kind of pulling back, you know, there's still a lot of moisture in this soil, and it's only rained a couple days ago, so that kind of helps that hold in, you know. But if we move on over into an area over here where it's been left open, you can already see that this top layer is dry, and that potentially a lot of the microbes and fungi have dried out in this top layer. So we still have some moisture down in here in those bottom layers, and a lot of the activity will be continuing down there, but we really want to protect all this with a nice layer of mulch. And sometimes I do about 2 to 3 inches on average, but even going a little bit more if you're doing sheet mulching or you're just trying to build a new garden bed, you know, just as much organic material as you can add. That really just helps these cycles continue.